Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you for standing by and welcome to Acupuncture Today's live webinar, The Synergistic Effects of Systemic Acupuncture and Light Therapy for the Prevention and Treatment of Cosmetic Facial Aging. Thank you to Saluma Light Therapy for sponsoring today's event. I'm Peter Crownsfield, Executive Editor of Acupuncture Today, and I'll be your moderator. A few quick notes before we begin. First, during today's webinar, attendees will be in listen-only mode. There will be a Q&A session at the end. If you have a question during the presentation, you can submit it online at any time by entering your question in the Q&A box on the right side of your screen. Simply type your question into the box and click the Send button. Finally, as a reminder, this presentation is being recorded. If you experience any technical issues, call WebEx Technical Support at 866-229-3239. Again, that number for support is 866-229-3239. Our presenters today are Patrick Johnson, CEO and inventor of Saluma, and Shelley Goldstein, LAC. Patrick is the Chief Executive Officer, founder, and inventor of the Saluma series LED devices. He has 26 years of experience leading medical, dental, aerospace, and motorsports manufacturing companies. He has 27 years of experience in cosmetic facial acupuncture. He is the founder of the Advanced Cosmetic Facial Acupuncture 100-Hour Mentorship Training and Certificate Program, the author of Your Best Face Now, Look Younger in 20 Days with a Do-It-Yourself Acupressure Facelift, and the creator of Touch and Glow, the Natural Acupressure Facelift Kit. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Patrick Johnson.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for spending the next hour or so with Shelley and I. We appreciate you taking the time to learn about low-level light therapy and how to integrate it with acupuncture. We're certainly in uncharted waters these days with the COVID-19 crisis, and we know that your businesses have likely been interrupted in a way that only you can fully appreciate. So we're hoping as we look forward to getting back to some sense of a new normal that the education we're going to provide today will help in bringing your businesses back up online as quickly as possible. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about the basics of light therapy, the science behind it, why you should care about the science, and how it works inside of a acupuncture practice. We're going to talk about how cosmetic facial acupuncture utilizes the principles of Chinese medicine. We're going to talk about how to pair acupuncture with low-level light therapy in your practices. And then we're going to give you some tips on how to integrate and how to price acupuncture integrated with light therapy. So, what is light therapy? Simply put, it's the application of specific wavelengths of light energy to tissue to obtain a therapeutic benefit. And I want to key in on one word here, specific, because not all wavelengths of light energy are created equal. The chromophores in your body, the photoreceptors for light energy, are not all created equal, and so we have to make sure that we're identifying the correct wavelengths of light that will achieve the biochemical reactions we're after with low-level light therapy. The clinical research into low-level light therapy dates back to the early 1960s and the advent of cold lasers, which was about 5 years before the invention of light-emitting diodes. But really, the interesting research that we're going to talk about is actually more towards the end of the last century and involves NASA's deep space exploration studies in sort of looking at the challenges of sending astronauts to Mars and back. NASA was wrestling with a lot of challenges. The first being, how do you feed astronauts on 2.5-year trip to Mars and back, because you can't build a spaceship big enough to take the food that's required. And so someone at NASA came up with the idea of, well, what if we used high-intensity LEDs to simulate the wavelengths of light energy from the sun that trigger photosynthesis? And lo and behold, NASA has been using high-intensity LEDs in the International Space Station for more than a decade to grow foodstuffs. And so problem solved. The bigger issue actually is that the human body relies on Earth's gravity for normal cellular function as a biological organism that evolved on the face of the Earth. So when you put the human body into a zero gravity environment like space, it shuts down at the cellular level. You get bone atrophy, you get muscle atrophy, you get suboptimal performance of the respiratory system, suboptimal performance of the cardiovascular system. Essentially, the body enters a state of hyperaging. And to sort of resolve this, again, the smart folks at NASA said, well, what if we use those high-intensity LEDs and we expose mitochondrial compromised tissue to those wavelengths of light, and lo and behold, does light energy not only re-regulate mitochondrial function, but it actually upregulates it by 3 to 6 times. So we go from a state of hyperaging to a state of accelerated cellular healing. So how does it do it? So think of it as photosynthesis for animals, because, and maybe we want to say mammals. I'm not sure how light therapy works on reptiles, but we know it works good on humans and cats and dogs and horses. So keep your pets in mind when thinking about low-level light therapy. Light energy is made up of particles called photons, and those photons can be absorbed through the cell membrane and into the mitochondria, where they are absorbed by the fourth molecule in the cellular respiratory chain, cytochrome C oxidase, which is a photoreceptor. And when the photons are absorbed, that triggers an upregulation of ATP. And as we all know, ATP is cellular energy. It's what drives normal cellular function. And so from there, you can have a cascade of downstream metabolic effects depending upon what cells you're exposing to the light energy. So in aesthetics, what we're most interested in is fibroblast cells, because fibroblast cells are the most important protein in connective tissue health as well as skin health. And the fibroblast cells are responsible for producing collagen and elastin, which repairs and keeps our connective tissue in our skin working well and looking good. Deeper into the tissue, keratinocytes, mast cells, neutrophil cells, macrophage cells, all involved in the inflammatory and immune response of the body, can all be impacted favorably by exposure to low-level light therapy. And then back up on the surface of the skin, P. acne bacteria can be killed by exposing it to blue light. Essentially, the blue light triggers a phototoxic event inside the bacteria. Porphyrins are released inside the bacteria. They rupture the cell membrane, and the bacteria essentially commit suicide. And in the absence of P. acne bacteria, you can't have acne vulgaris. So great way to treat bacteria or acne. So what kind of light are we talking about? We're talking about light energy inside and just outside the visible light spectrum, from about 400 nanometers, which occurs to us humans as blue light, to about 900 nanometers, which is just outside the visible light spectrum or near infrared light. So why that range? Well, because below about 400 nanometers in length, the melanin in our skin prevents the absorption of light energy, and that results in sun damage. Below 400 nanometers is where UV light lives, and so we don't include that in low-level light therapy. And then above about 900 nanometers in length, the water in our tissue prevents the absorption of light energy, which actually creates a thermal event in our tissue. So those of you who are familiar with infrared lamps or infrared saunas, those wavelengths are as much as 10 times the length as the near infrared wavelengths we use in low-level light therapy. Now, while warming the tissue is absolutely therapeutic, it triggers vasodilation and increases the flow of fluids in our tissue. It's not triggering that biochemical reaction, the upregulation of ATP that we're trying to accomplish with low-level light therapy. So wavelength determines depth of penetration, not power. I'll say that again. Wavelength determines depth of penetration, not power. The longer the wavelength, the deeper it penetrates. That's why we use blue light, a very short wavelength, to treat conditions at the surface of the skin, because we want to deliver the majority of the dose right at the surface of the skin where, for instance, that P. acne bacteria lives. Red light penetrates between 2 and 8 millimeters below the surface of the skin, down into the tissue where all the fibroblast cells live. And so that's why we're activating fibroblast cells with red light, because it reaches and delivers the majority of the dose to the level of tissue where the fibroblast cells can be found. And then near infrared is deep penetrating, as much as 25 millimeters below the surface of the skin, down into the subcutaneous tissue, upregulating microcirculation, knocking down inflammation, knocking down muscle spasm. So it's really the pain management wavelength. So if you're looking at what makes an efficacious light therapy device, you're really going to look at 4 different elements. Now, we've talked about wavelength. If you look at the nearly 5,000 clinical papers on low-level light therapy, it clearly bears out that wavelengths in the blue, red, and near infrared spectrum are most optimally photoabsorbed by cytochrome C oxidase. So when you're looking for a device, you want to look for a device that has blue, red, and near infrared wavelengths, and ideally all 3, so that you can be treating different levels of tissue simultaneously. The second thing to look at is energy delivery. And again, if we look at the clinical literature, there's a consensus that to trigger the upregulation of ATP, you need to be delivering between 2 and 10 joules of light energy per centimeter squared. 2 to 10 joules per centimeter squared. Well, what's that? The joule is a measurement of energy, or 1 second of a watt of power. Okay? And we want to be delivering that over a square centimeter, which is about 3/8 of an inch by 3/8 of an inch. So so what we call that range is the biphasic dose response curve. Now, the biphasic dose response curve applies to any biostimulation. But again, if we look at the clinical literature in low-level light therapy, it's somewhere between 2 and 10 joules per centimeter squared. Below that range, we're not delivering enough light energy to upregulate the production of ATP. And above that range, we're potentially delivering too much energy, which can result in a toxic event, essentially an oxidative event, producing too much NO, releasing too many free radicals in the bloodstream, which can result in a damage to the tissue. So we want to make sure that we're delivering right inside that range of 2 to 10 joules per centimeter squared. The other thing related to energy delivery is pulsing. And we know that if we pulse or modulate the delivery of light energy, it is more effectively absorbed by cytochrome C oxidate. Essentially in pulsing, and I'm not talking about sort of Christmas light twinkling, I'm talking about modulating the light between 80 and 800 times a second, or 80 to 800 hertz. We actually provide the cells with little rest periods so that they can absorb as much energy as possible. And the analogy I use here is, think of watering a lawn. In order to keep a lawn healthy, it requires a certain amount of water. And if the only thing you're concerned about is delivering that amount of water, you'd use a fire hose, get it over with. The problem is the fire hose is likely to do two things to the lawn. One, it's likely to damage it because too much water too fast, and the water is most likely delivered that fast going to not be absorbed. It's going to run off. Very much the same thing with light energy. So we want to use modulation of light to ensure the optimal absorption of the light energy that's being delivered. Sort of inversely, well, almost inversely proportional to the amount of energy delivery is treatment time, although there is not a complete reciprocal relationship between time and amount of energy delivered. If you have a device that's delivering between 2 and 10 joules per centimeter squared, you are going to have a treatment time of between 20 and 30 minutes. There's no shortcutting. And again, back to the biphasic dose response, if you try to shortcut, if you try to deliver too much energy too fast, you again have the potential of creating a toxic event and damaging the tissue. So light energy is a full therapeutic dose, and what I mean by that is creating up to 48 hours of residual upregulated cellular activity. That requires a 20 to 30-minute treatment. And then the final thing, and really it was the aha moment in the creating of the Celluma, is proximity to skin, or what we call emissions proximity. My background is in orthopedics, and in orthopedics we use thermal devices, both cold and hot devices, to closely wrap the surgical site post-op to manage pain and to accelerate healing. And it struck me that a light energy device should work the same way, that it shouldn't stand off away from the area of treatment, but that it should closely conform with the area of treatment. And so it turns out my intuition was supported by a law of optical physics called the inverse square law. And again, the inverse square law applies to any form of energy. Here we're talking about light energy. And it basically states each time the distance between a light source, like the Celluma, and a surface of absorption, like your skin, is doubled, the amount of energy available for absorption is decreased by 4 times. And it's really absorption of energy that we're concerned about, not power output, okay? So let me state that again. As you double the distance between a surface of absorption and a source of light energy, the amount of energy available decreases by 4 times. So let me give you an example of that. The Celluma nominally positions a 1/4 inch away from the skin. If you take another device and you position it just a 1/4 inch further, or a 1/2 inch away from the skin, that device has to be 4 times as powerful to deliver the same amount of energy that the Celluma delivers. So that's really sort of our secret sauce, is getting the light energy as close to the surface of the skin so that we can deliver a therapeutic dose, but without the potential of overpowering the cells and potentially creating a toxic event in the tissues. So here's an example of that. You can see on the left-hand side the Soluma cradled over the face or tented over the face in a nominal position, and it's a ½ inch away from the nose, as opposed to a competitive device, which is held by a cradle tented over the face, which is a ½ inch away from the nose. And just given that inch differential, that competitive device has to be 9 times as powerful. Well, one, that makes that device more expensive, but it also introduces the possibility that if you move that device closer to the skin, it could provide a dose that would create a toxic event and damage the tissue. So, you know, we've sort of reached the perfect combination with the Soluma, that we position it close to the skin and it delivers the optimal dose of light energy to upregulate ATP. So laser acupuncture is well known in your practice, and you know what we're proposing today is that while that is effective, using a panel device, an LED device like the Soluma, can be equally, if not more effective, because we are using it in a larger area to stimulate cellular activity and the healing of tissue. So the kind of results you're able to get with a very focused handheld laser, you're able to get in a much greater area with a panel device like the Soluma. And so low-level light therapy is an excellent alternative for that reason to laser acupuncture. You can use it anywhere on the body. It's safe and effective. It is FDA cleared. It is medically CE marked. And there are close to 30,000 Soluma in clinical practice today. It covers a large area, and it's hands-free, so that you don't have to be there holding the laser over the patient. You can be going on and doing something else, whether that's charting, whether that's working on your social media, whether that's working on the patient someplace else, or getting a double cappuccino latte. So with that, I want to hand it over to Shelley, and she's going to talk about the practical implications of integrating light therapy into your practice.
Thank you, Pastor. So I am an acupuncturist and a Soluma junkie. I actually have 3 Solumas. I have one in my practice, I have one for my private use, and then I have one that I actually rent out to my patients. Now, obviously, I'm going to have to rethink this one, and I think renting it is still a great idea and a great source of income for me. But I know that they have the plastic sleeves, the protective sleeves that we can put over them, and so for me, I use it for a number of things. I use it for my cosmetic acupuncture patients. I use it for pain patients. I use it as an adjunct to services. I use it for a number of things. And actually, I would say that 80% of my treatments, I actually use LED or infrared. So specific to my cosmetic acupuncture patients, I use it for a number of things, and I think Patrick did a wonderful job of presenting the benefits of it. But as a specialist in cosmetic facial acupuncture, I know that it stimulates the cell microcirculation. I can see a visible difference in lymphatic drainage. I can see a visible difference in terms of softening wrinkles and improving fine lines. I see a plumping difference in my patients, particularly in the cheek area, where we tend to lose collagen and elastin first. And when I use it, my patients, they just glow. Their skin looks good, they feel better, they are happier, and they like it too. Also, as Patrick said, when I'm using it, it actually gives me the opportunity to turn in a 30-minute cycle, so I can go to the next patient, or I can do my charting, or whatever it is that I do. Now I'm getting messages. Can people hear me? Because it says you're hard to hear. Is this better? So, okay. So with my, yes, okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So when I use it for my pain patients, it's the same thing. I'll do my acupuncture treatment, and then I will actually put the Soluma either over the needles or additional to the needles. And I find that, as Patrick also explained, it helps to stimulate ATP production and facilitate the healing process. So I find that my patients feel better faster. Their inflammation goes down, the tissue restores more effectively. It's very relaxing, and again, I find it as a fabulous adjunct to my treatment. And so and personally too, I have it in my home, and anytime any of my friends go, oh, I hurt my back, I hurt my blah, 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 it's like, here, use my Soluma, you'll love it. And they like it. It's really, I really can't praise it enough. So let's break this down. So in my cosmetic facial acupuncture practice, and for those of you who practice facial acupuncture, we know that you're not just putting needles in the face, you're actually putting them in the body first and determining your patterns of disharmony, your treatment protocols. You put your acupuncture needles in the body first to treat the underlying pattern of disharmony, and then you use local acupuncture points on the face to address the symptoms, which are wrinkles, sinus tone, or skin disorders. And then I actually put the Soluma right over the needles. So they're lying there, they have the needles on their in their legs, their arms, their torso, neck, wherever. And then I put them in the face, and then I actually drape the Soluma over the top. And I wish you could see me, because the technology is amazing. The way that this piece of equipment works is it has a wiring in it, and you can actually fold it so it sits perfectly over the face, as the slide that Patrick showed you. You could actually see the Soluma draping over the face. And so it's close, but it's not strong enough, too strong that people say, oh, that's too strong, that hurts my eyes. It's actually quite soothing when you're lying under it. So, so the first thing that I'll do is in my, particularly, let's say a wrinkle treatment, I will cleanse their face. I will do my diagnostics and come up with my TCM pattern of disharmony diagnosis. And then with the torso, arms, legs, and torso points, I will treat them accordingly. And then I will put the needles in, and then I will position the patient under the device. Sometimes I cover their eyes, sometimes not. And what's nice about this particular piece of equipment is it has a little panel. It has 3 settings. One says acne, one says wrinkles, and the other says aches and pains. So you just dial it to the position that says wrinkle and turn it on, and that's it. So I generally have my patients come in once or twice a week for 5 to 10 weeks, depending upon the treatment. And after the cycle of this particular treatment, I will take the Soluma away, remove the needles, and then apply any type of product that I would do. For the wrinkle setting, here's an example. This is a picture of one of my patients. You can actually see the acupuncture needles in her face. She did want her eyes covered, although it's not necessary. I set it on a 30-minute cycle of the wrinkle setting. It's a red light dominant setting. It's primarily at 340 nanometers to stimulate fibroblast activity for the healthy production of collagen and elastin in the dermal layer of the skin. And then, so here's an example of the difference. Now, if you look at the top image, do you see the creasing that goes across the center of her forehead? Well, in 5 weekly treatments with acupuncture and the Soluma, can you see not only how much softer the creasing is, but how much smoother her skin looks? So she was very pleased, and that was only 5 out of 10 weekly treatments. So there's a big plus there. For acne, I would do a similar treatment by cleansing the face, and then I would do my treatment, my determining what through tongue and pulse and any other palpation I might do. I would choose my acupuncture treatment, and this particular situation, this person had heat in the large intestine and stomach, and so then I placed the needles first in the legs and the arms, and then her face. Again, I put the needles, once the needles were in place, I positioned the LED device, the Celluma, over the needles and turned it on. This time I chose the Acne setting, which was a blue dominant setting, and ran it for 30 minutes, removed the needles, applied a treatment product, and in this situation, again, it was either 2 weeks for 5 to 10 weeks. And so you can see that this was, because it was heat in the stomach and large intestines, you can actually see the breakups around her mouth. You can see the darkening and the congestion in that area as well. And she had really great results because, again, as Patrick said, that blue light dominant is very effective for killing P. acne at the surface of the skin on the epidermis. And here is a before and after. This is acupuncture and the LED Celluma for my patient, and you can see a visible difference in her treatment as well. Then again, again, I just want to review that with cosmetic acupuncture, you're not just putting needles in the face. You're really using your TCM diagnostics in order to treat the patient, and then use the local points on the face to treat the symptoms. And then the LED is an amazing adjunct to it. I find that in my practice, when I add the LED treatment, it really enhances the efficacy of the treatment, and so, which means that you get the results faster. Now, my practice has been in New York, and in New York, people are used to a lot, and you basically get 2 treatments in order to, quote, prove yourself. So with my Celluma, I've been able to prove myself, and I have a great practice, and I do thank the Celluma to be part of the benefits that I get very quickly from my treatments. Also, I use my Celluma for pain reduction. So again, as acupuncturists, we are going to do our acupuncture diagnostics. We're going to treat the pain area according to our TCM pattern of disharmony. I will then place the needles, and you can see in this particular slide, there's 2 different slides. One of them is using e-stim, the other's not. So you place the needles in the appropriate places, and then you apply the Cellumans. Actually, in this slide, you can actually see the way that the Celluma comfortably drapes over the body and gives you really effective treatments, and it's really comfortable for the patient too. It's a very light rubber feeling, so it doesn't feel heavy or weighty. It's very sexy and easy to use. So I apply the device on or over the needles to the affected area. I put it on the 3rd setting. It's called aches and pains setting. Let the patient sit with the light and the acupuncture for 30 minutes or 20 minutes, depending upon the amount of time that you have. Then remove the light device, remove the needles. So here's another example of the way to wrap the Celluma. So again, it's a very light feel to it, and it wraps perfectly around either the legs or the arms, and it has a Velcro setting, a strap, so that you can keep it on there without it flopping around. And in this particular setting, it's set at 880 nanometers to provide deep penetration into the subcutaneous tissue, and below that to the muscle area. The other opportunity for incorporating LED into your treatments is with microneedling. So I don't know how many of you actually use microneedling in your treatments. I do, I love it. And again, with the microneedling, you use it for multiple reasons. So I would cleanse the face, and if I'm using a 1.0 or a 1.5 millimeter derma roller, I will apply a numbing gel to the face just so that it's more comfortable for the patient. And then I will place the needles in the legs and the arms first, and then their face. I will let the needles stay in place. I'll remove the numbing gel and I'll roll. So I'll roll the entire face. Generally, if you're using a 0.5 millimeter roller, it's great for just at the base of the epidermal layer where the hair shafts come out through the dermal layer. So it's great for stimulating hair growth and more superficial advantages. If you're using a 1.0 millimeter or 1.5, then you're moving into deeper layer of the tissues. So at that point, I do think the numbing gel is more comfortable for the patient, although some people don't use it. So then again, I will position the patient under the LED light, and I will use either the Acne Setting or Wrinkle Setting, depending upon the intention of the treatment. I'll run it for 30 minutes. And I find that when I roll, particularly in a 1.5 with 1.5 millimeter roller, my patient's face gets red, it gets irritated, it burns a little bit. And when I use the Soluma afterwards, I take it off, and it's amazing. The skin is clear. It's not as red. It's not as irritated. It heals more quickly, and my patients call me the next day and thank me. And so, again, after I remove the Soluma, I will apply the appropriate products, and I use it once. I have them come in either once a month for 3 to 5 months, or depending upon where they are in their treatment process, I may have them come a little less frequently. So again, the needle length for the face that I use is a 0.5 millimeter to a 2.0. I use the 2.0 for scarring, acne scarring, and I'll use a 1.5 for deep penetration and deep stimulation of fibroblast activity. The 1 is also great for that, and then I use the 0.5 for stimulating hair growth in the hairline, or just a little bit of an extra tweak to, say, a 0.25, which is what people can use for home use. And for those of you who are not familiar with the microneedling, what we're doing is similar to plum blossom, is we're creating a microtrauma in the surface of the skin, just below the surface of the skin, to promote the healthy production of collagen and elastin in the skin to tissue, and that happens by stimulating the activity of fibroblasts. So here's an example of microneedling. This is a roller, and when you are rolling a patient's face, well, you can do it, you can start at the top, you can start at the bottom, it doesn't really matter. What's more important is rolling in all of the directions. So you're going to roll across. If you're starting at the top, you're going to roll it across the side of the head, and I tend to break it into halves so that I'll do half of the face first. So I'll roll across, up and down, corner to corner, corner to corner, then I'll do the other side. And then I'll move to the cheek area. I'll move horizontally across the mid face and lower face, up and down, corner to corner, corner to corner, and then do the other side of the face. And then I'll do neck, up and down, horizontally across, corner to corner, corner to corner. And I find that if you break the face up and you do it half at a time, it's more comfortable for the patient, and you can really hone in on your skills, and you get really effective treatments. So here's an example of microneedling. I'm not sure if you can see the redness. This is before the treatment, and this slide doesn't quite do it justice, but if you look at the forehead area, you can see the redness and irritation in the skin, redness and irritation in the cheek area and the lower portion of the face. That redness and irritation means to your patient that it hurts. It's tender, it's irritated, it's a little painful. And then after, when you use the Soluma, you can actually see the redness has disappeared. You can see that the skin looks softer and the patient feels better. So, and on top of that, by stimulating the activity, the ATP in the cells and stimulating fibroblast activity, actually the results of your treatment are more effective as well. So,
and I think, Shelley, if I can contribute there.
Jump.
One of the
Yeah.
One of the things to observe is the puffiness under the eyes. That's the inflammation that's been triggered by the insult, and that puffiness is all gone after the light therapy treatment.
Great. Thanks, Patrick. Exactly. And that also is what helps to make your patient feel better too, because inflammation and puffiness causes irritation in the skin. So when you can take down that inflammation, the healing, you've already started the healing process. So by the time they have finished their treatment, they are already in the healing process instead of having to go home and wait for the inflammation to go down. So thanks, Patrick. Now, in terms of pricing, there are many ways to do this. This is just a recommendation. I would suggest that you compare it to what the price ranges in your area. So again, this is just a range, but you can use the Celluma treatment as a standalone service. You can call it an express treatment or whatever you want. You basically have them come in, lie down on the table, remove any makeup that they have, put them under the Celluma, leave, come back after the designated amount of time, remove the Celluma, and apply a product to their face if you choose to do so. Easy treatment. It requires very little time and effort, and you can, if you have an extra ring, it's a great way to increase your bottom line. You can also add it to a series. So for example, if someone purchases a package of treatments and you add the Celluma to it, and you can even call it something different, then you can discount that package. It gives them something extra to have in terms of their treatment, so it makes it a little special, and you can charge more for your treatment. So for example, if you were to charge an extra $55 for one, you could charge, say, $440 for 8, which is, a discounted price, and it's kind of a win-win situation for everybody. You can also, at the time of their treatment, you can upgrade a treatment, and in that case, you can add it to whatever treatment that you're doing, whether it's acupuncture with any additional modality like face cupping or gua sha or microcurrent or microneedling. Again, you can add it to your treatment, and you can charge more for it. So, for example, if you have an anti-aging acupuncture treatment, it's $200 an hour. You could consider adding, quote, a signature LED anti-aging acupuncture treatment, and you can add a little bit more to it. And again, if you have the space in your office, an extra treatment room, that's fine. And you actually can increase your revenue by 25 to 30%. As an add-on service, the way that I figure it out, the price is I will add $1 to $3 per minute of time. So if you have a 30-minute treatment, it's more than, say, a 20-minute treatment. But either way, it's just a great way to add on to your services. So I don't know, Patrick, do you want to take it from here? How do I get this over to you?
Sure.
Got it. Okay.
I have it. Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I think summarizing, if you take anything away from our presentation this morning on low-level light therapy, it's that light therapy knocks down inflammation and increases microcirculation, delivering more nutrients and more oxygen to the tissue, allowing the tissue to heal faster. To a great degree in aesthetics, what we do is we insult tissue in order to elicit a healing response on the part of the body. The problem is we also trigger an inflammatory response, which is the body's natural protection mechanism against further injury, which in fact retards then cellular healing. So we're actually working at cross purposes, and then that's the real magic of low-level light therapy, is that one, we're knocking down the inflammation, the kind of inflammation created by the microneedling that Shelley showed us, and then we're giving cells the energy they need to heal faster. I wanted to thank Acupuncture Today for hosting the event. Also wanted to thank you for spending the time with us today. I imagine we're all doing things different than the norm these days to keep ourselves going. One of the things that Biophotos has done is we're using the materials that we normally use to manufacture the Soluma, and we're using those to make medical face shields. And we're currently working on our order for almost 250,000 face shields to keep our people, occupied while we're all, sequestering at home and not seeing patients. And we're actually going to make those face shields available to our professional Soluma users. As a special thanks for attending the event today, for live attendees, we're offering a special. If you buy a Soluma in the next 15 days or between now and May 1st, or I'm saying May 15th, you're going to get a free pack of 5 of those face shields. We're going to give you a free carrying tote for your Soluma so you can take it home with you every night and use it like Shelly does at home. And we're going to give you free shipping for anywhere in the contiguous 48 states. And then I want to make sure anybody who's on the call who already owns a Soluma is aware that we're actually providing packs of 100 hygienic barriers free to any Soluma user so that you can provide a little extra confidence in the eyes of your clients and patients that you're doing all the right stuff when it comes to hygienic practices. And our hygienic barriers are kind of the suspenders to the belt of disinfecting the device with a low alcohol, non-bleach surface disinfectant. So if you own a Soluma already, just give us a call and we'd be happy to send you out a pack of them for 100 for free. And don't forget, if you want to get a Soluma for your own practice, lots of free tchotchkes if you do that between now and May 1st. Soluma is the undisputed LED device in aesthetics, not because we say so, but because the readers of all the major journals in aesthetics say so. We've been winning those awards for the last 5 years, which is as long as we've been in the aesthetic marketplace. And we're particularly proud of our aesthetic award last year, where we were voted Innovative Product of the Year against all products in the medical aesthetic space, not just light therapy, but all products. So you can rest assured with Soluma that you're getting not only a quality product, but a efficacious, safe, and effective product.
That's great, Patrick. You know what I'm thinking too? I was listening this morning to Andrew Cuomo talking about what the changes that are going to be made, particularly to a practice like ours, and it's going to require a lot of cleaning in between patients. So I was just thinking, now maybe what I can do is use my Soluma, put it over the person, and then move to the room that just got emptied, and that gives me the time to clean, so that when I go back, then it's a nice clean room. So anyway, just thinking, but there are definitely so many benefits to it. Both in terms of time saved, revenue, and just the incredible difference it makes for the quality of the treatments. My patients and patient comfort, and it gives you something extra to have, and I know that my patients really love it, and I love mine at home too. I just just want to mention that I am a specialist in cosmetic facial acupuncture. I do have the Academy of Advanced Cosmetic Facial Acupuncture. It's a mentorship and certificate program. It's offered once a year. The next one will be in January of 2000. So if you have any, if you'd like more information, you can go to the website. There's a telephone number also on the website. You'll have more information, and if you would like to reach me, if you have any questions, just reach out to me through the website, and we can have a personal conversation if you want. And my heart reaches out to all of us and all of the people during this time period. I also am wondering if other people, as well as me, we're such givers in our profession, and maybe I was listening to Lily and Bridges talking, and she was talking about it's an opportunity for us to be more yin and to nurture ourselves and take care of ourselves, and then hopefully soon we will be restored and revitalized to get out there and do what we do best, again, which is be the healers that we are. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Acupuncture Today. I love what we do all the time. Thank you, Patrick, and for the Saluma and for what you bring to the table for us acupuncturists. And Peter, thank you so much for hosting. I appreciate all of you, and thank you.
All right, sounds like it's time for a Q&A session, and we have tons of questions coming in, so we'll see how many we can get through here in the next 10 minutes or so. So we'll start by segueing from what you were just talking about, Shelley, which is about while someone's getting a treatment, going into your next room and completely sanitizing it. So how easy is it to disinfect the actual device between patients?
I use the protective sleeve, and I just take the sleeve off and dispose of it. And then what I will need to start doing is cleaning down the cords and the rim of it. So, Patrick, I just use like colloidal silver or some type of a low alcohol product. What do you have anything specific that you might recommend?
Yeah, I think the best example is a cavi wipe. You want something that's got some alcohol in it. You just want to make sure it doesn't have any bleach. And so if you can look at the labeling, and particularly in the COVID era, we need alcohol to kill that virus. So low alcohol, no bleach, surface disinfectant.
Yeah, and definitely take them up on their opportunity to send you the protective sleeves, because it comes in a packet of 100 and I go through them.
We have a number of attendees asking about how it treats different conditions. And I know you talked about acne and facial lines, things like that, pain. But the first one is can you use it, and is it safe to use it on the stomach and legs to reduce stretch marks?
I'll take that.
Okay.
Okay. The Saluma is FDA cleared to treat acne, for reducing fine lines and wrinkles in the face, specifically in the perioral and periorbital area. And then it is FDA cleared for 6 different pain indications for use, including rheumatoid and osteoarthritis. It can be used anywhere on the body, so no problems using it over belly and over the legs. We don't have an FDA clearance for treating stretch marks, but to the degree that light therapy increases the overall health of the skin, you might see some improvement with that. We just can't make a representation about it.
I think one thing that you can do is treat it as chi stagnation in the area. Treat it with acupuncture, derma roll, and then use the light. I think you'll get some results.
Next question: can you use can a patient be treated with the device and then sit in an infrared sauna on the same day? Is there any issue with that?
Patrick?
Yeah, I don't see any problem with it. You know, it's a different mechanism of action. You're not going to be canceling anything out. The patient or client maybe get a little overwhelmed, but yeah, there's nothing that contraindicates that.
We have a bunch of people asking about treatment protocols, let's just call them, in terms of frequency. And I know it's probably patient specific, but if either of you or both of you can chime in on, I know you talked about some of the protocols, Shelley, for specific conditions of suggested treatment, the amount of time per session, and then maybe the number of sessions for a positive result. Can you review some of those?
Let me talk about the FDA approved protocols that we have. As I mentioned, to get a full therapeutic dose, you need 20 to 30 minutes, and that will produce up to 48 hours of upregulated cellular activity. So our protocols are 3 times a week. And you know, one of the things you have to look at is, am I treating a chronic condition or am I treating an acute condition? If it's a chronic condition, it took longer to develop, it's going to take longer to resolve. And so it may take, you know, more treatments, as opposed to if you have an acute condition, somebody twisted a knee, they rolled an ankle, they have a breakout, it's going to respond to fewer treatments. I would say in the case of acute conditions, using the device daily will not hurt. There's no risk of overdose with light therapy, but you may not get incremental benefit of using it more than once every other day.
And so Luma has, if you wanted to sell one to your patient, they have a variety of different pieces that you can use. Some are just their little pods to take home and use. So there's a lot of opportunity here to have your patients buy a Saloom and take it home if they can only get to you once or twice a week. And I'm an advocate of retail because not only is it an income producer for you, but additionally, it engages the patient. It helps them to become responsible for their own healing process. And they like it. They actually like it. So I would go on their website and take a look at the different options there are for purchasing Soluma.
Next question. I noticed that with the, I think you had a slide where you're using the device at the same time that you have needles inserted. And so the attendee asks whether there's an optimal distance from the skin in that scenario, and if there's a particular distance from the skin where the LED is no longer effective. And I'm sure this probably also brings up a discussion of wavelengths, depending on what your depth of penetration is intended to be.
Patrick talked about that. Do you want to recap that, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, and obviously using the Soluma adjunctively with the needles, you know, adds a layer to the effectiveness of the light energy being delivered to the surface of the skin, because you've got sort of a combined modality of treatment going on there. Ideally, you want to have the light as close to the surface of the skin as possible, and that being the case, you want to have the light as close to the needles as possible, so you're getting as close to them and to the skin. And I'll ask Shelley, you know, kind of how she does that from a practical standpoint.
I just lay it right on top, and it works.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a question that came down as I was talking, and I thought it was a really good one. It was about, and I don't remember, it was in the middle somewhere, about the application of the Soluma for headaches.
Yes.
And so what I wanted to say about that is in that situation, I've had this situation a lot. Rather than putting the Soluma over the face for headaches, I actually, because headaches are oftentimes stem from the base of the neck, I will actually use the Soluma on the aches and pain setting behind their neck while they're getting the treatment, as opposed to over their face. Because you do have to remember that it is a bit of a flashing light. So if their migraines or headaches are aggravated by light flashing, then I wouldn't use that. But I have found and gotten great results for treating people with headaches by using the Soluma behind their neck as opposed to over their face on the aches and pain setting.
We have a couple questions about microcurrent therapy. I know you talked about using that in combination with treatment. Is it better to apply microcurrent before or after LED treatment, or vice versa, et cetera?
You know, for the most part, our recommendation is to follow any modality of treatment with the light therapy. And again, that's to knock down the inflammation created by the other treatment mode. And so for the most part, follow whatever you're doing with light therapy. The only exception to that is, you know, on the orthopedic side of the business, when someone's getting ready for orthopedic surgery, we like to have them treat the area ahead of time. So you're vitalizing the tissue as much as possible ahead of the surgical insult, and then sort of follow up, you know, any dermal injury, whether it be intentional, accidental, disease-based, get the Soluma on it as fast as you possibly can. That will help in reducing the healing time and help in reducing the production of myofibroblast cells that cause scarring. So yeah, for the most part, in general, follow with light therapy.
That's what I do. I will do the microcurrent, and then anything that causes, even acupuncture, causes a slight inflammation in the tissue. And so I find that using the microcurrent first, and then I'll apply the light or with the needles in the face or wherever you're using it.
Let's finish with, looks like a question that keeps coming up, Patrick, and I know you answered it once already, but if we can finish by reviewing the FDA clearances for specific conditions, because we have people asking about its use for scars and bruising, for rosacea, for all psoriasis, all different other kinds of things. So
yeah,
if you can address that the best you can.
Right. So the Soluma has almost all of the FDA clearances awarded to light therapy devices on the market. That includes treating acne, reducing fine lines and wrinkles, treating 6 musculoskeletal pain indications, including osteo and rheumatoid arthritis, increasing microcirculation, knocking down muscle spasm, knocking down inflammation. And then in addition to that, in the EU, the Soluma is medically CE marked as a dermal wound healing device. And that's an indication we're working on here in the US. Right now, there are no LED devices that are FDA cleared as dermal wound healing. And our clinical study that we were conducting got put on hold. So we're waiting for the university world to turn back on so we can finish that study. And then the only other indication that the Soluma doesn't currently have is for hair restoration. And we're in the process of submitting for that clearance for the FDA currently. So, you know, beyond that, while we can't make representations, if you have a condition that is inflammatory based, it's likely that low-level light therapy is going to be helpful.
Excellent. With that, we'll conclude today's live webinar. Keep in mind that if your question was not answered, we will forward it to our presenters and you will be contacted shortly. If you'd like additional information about Celluma, their information is available on the screen now. Also keep in mind that within 48 hours, we'll have this webinar archived in its entirety on acupuncturetoday.com. A link to the archived presentation will be sent via email to all attendees and registrants. Again, I would like to thank Patrick Johnson, Shelley Goldstein, and Celluma Light Therapy for making this event possible. And thank you to everyone who attended. Enjoy the rest of your day and please stay safe.